How do you celebrate your roots while forging your own path? Julian Ritchie is a first generation Colombian Canadian and founder of Listo Calisto, connecting and empowering Latin creatives across Canada's media industry. His story is about community, opportunity, and claiming your identity on your own terms. This is Julian Ritchie on My Most Authentic Life.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
And I can't wait to start unpacking everything that got you to launching Listo Calisto, which will be a huge focus of the conversation. But you just had an exciting adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
An exciting 72 hours.
Yeah. I was just in LA. I think I have like a little bit of a suntan hat from my hat. But I was just in LA. I've just started a new gig in vertical productions. So that'll be something that you'll hear more about in Toronto for the next few months for sure.
Amazing. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. It's the wild, wild west, I guess.
Yeah, it's like blowing up in LA. I think there's a couple
So
companies.
literally the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I think there's a couple companies in Vancouver doing it, but not many people in Toronto. So that'll be exciting to kind of bring some more work where there's definitely a lot of people that want to just get to work in Toronto.
Amazing. So what is it in a nutshell?
Vertical productions are basically the medium of narrative storytelling in the vertical format, where you're watching it on the mobile like that. So whether it's art or not remains to be seen. But yeah, no, it's a great new way of storytelling.
And obviously, ideally suited for TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms.
There's all these new platforms that are coming out. So yeah, you can check it out.
Amazing, amazing. Well, let's start getting into your story and what's brought you here into the career path that's been shaped by your life journey. Take us back to your Latino experience growing up in Canada.
Yeah, I was born in Canada. I'm first generation Colombian. My mother moved here when she was quite young as well. She moved here in the late 60s. My abuelito, my grandfather, he came to Canada in, I think, 1968, 1969 by himself. So he had already started his family, and he left them to come to Canada and start to build something here. And then he told them, okay, I'm ready. Come, I have a job now. And the family came over. And that's something that's always kind of like resonated with me a lot, that sacrifice. And my mother grew up in Canada from an early age. And so my upbringing was quite Latino light. I did grow up in a Colombian household, but I also grew up with a stepfather who's white. So we weren't really speaking Spanish in the house. The first language I learned was Spanish. There's baby videos of me speaking Spanish, but when my mother remarried, we started speaking English in the house. So I lost my Spanish. So my identity as a Latino is very like push and pull, and very like I have to fight for my Latin identity sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's something that I've come to understand or come to terms with recently, that I'm 100% both. I'm Mexican Canadian, but for a long time I was living with I'm half half. But the celebration of being fully both is really interesting. And there's a famous expression in Spanish, which I'd love for you to talk about from your life lens, especially this Latino light lens that you spoke of. The expression ni de aquí ni de allá, which means neither here nor there. And it's used for a lot of first generation Latinos that either that were born here or that immigrated here at a young age. And this in-betweenness, this messy in-betweenness where we're not from there, but we're not from here either. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting phrase that I think not only Latinos kind of resonate with, but I think any first generation immigrant kind of feels that. I was working on a movie once where kind of the immigrant experience was a huge theme. And one thing that the writer had put in there for one of the characters was that this character, he would say, sometimes I feel like I'm an iceberg that's splitting down the middle, and one foot's on one side and one foot's on the other, and they're drifting apart. And I think that kind of resonates with a lot of immigrants or first generation immigrants, or someone who's like grew up in a certain cultural household, and then now you're here and you feel that kind of drift between the two, and you're just trying to be like, well, who am I in all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms, staying on the topic of identity, obviously language is a big thing. For me, I always say that Spanish is my native language, but English is my first language.
Mm,
Uh,
okay.
what's your relationship to language?
I can barely speak English. I have a tenuous grasp of the English language, and any other language I can't speak as well. No, I can only really speak English. I mean, I know French as much as like anybody who grew up in Canada being taught French, and I know Spanish as much as like. It's kind of weird because sometimes I love going to Colombia like every other year. That's kind of like I'll go on a trip to Colombia one year and then I'll go travel somewhere broader the next year. And what I kind of do is every time I go back to Colombia, I find that the Spanish is just like really quick. Like I pick it up very quickly. And I think it's just like a personal confidence thing. Like if I just be like more confident to just like pick it up with my Latino friends, then I'd probably be better at it. But it's my own journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's on their own journey. That reminded me of something funny. It's in relation to Spanish speaking immigrants that go to the US, but I think it totally applies to Canada as well, which is that uh, the Latin immigrants going to the US don't go to improve their English or learn English. They actually go to unlearn Spanish.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that's where Spanglish is born.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's like you're talking in both, and then eventually, I reached a point where actually I was my household was speaking a lot of Spanglish, not because we wanted to, because everything you're it's like you can't keep fighting it if everything around you is in English.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a great way to articulate it.
So now let's start. I wanted to talk a bit more about this evolution from Latino light because I assume it's evolved, and that's a fantastic expression, by the way. No, I think and obviously this must be an evolution in your journey. Where are you now? Is it Latino plus or working towards premium?
Yeah. Subscription pack. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it kind of it started it's always been ongoing, and I think when my grandfather passed away 2 years ago, it's kind of really made me take stock of everything because uh my grandparents are very much like they sometimes, and I might not be the only first generation immigrant who feels this way, but like my grandparents are kind of like a barometer of how deep I feel with my culture. And it's like I feel I feel more Colombian when I'm with them, and we're eating Colombian food, or we're talking like blah blah blah, and we're talking about where they're from or whatever. Just being in their uh, vicinity makes me feel more in touch with my culture. And when my grandfather passed away, a huge chunk of that went away. And then I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm not as much as myself. And then that's when I would go to Colombia and try to learn more. And then I wanted to get more of a Latin community in Toronto. And things kind of just happened to perfectly match up at the right time. In my career, I was independently consulting and going to a lot of film festivals and conferences and stuff like that. And we both know there's like such wonderful cultural endeavors in the industry across Canada for like, there's Real Asian, there's Imaginative, there's BSO, there's Real World, there's so many others that I'm not naming right now, but you get what I'm saying. And there was really nothing for the Latin community. And I was kind of astonished. I was like, how is this like, there's some other organizations like Alucine and stuff like that, but I wanted something that catered towards Latinos in the media industry, Latin Canadians, I should specify, Latinos that live here in Canada, that work in the media industry, and at this time where I was personally trying to kind of like fill this gap of losing my culture when my grandfather passed away, and searching for it, and then also my career at the same time was kind of like going in certain directions. I was like, well, this is a great moment for me to kind of put something together for the community. And that's kind of where the Latin Forum came from.
Beautiful. And I love, that's a perfect way to set up this project that you're working on. It's a big endeavor, and but it's also really like a beautiful example of your personal journey from going from the resistance in those early days to now finding a way to celebrate your identity. So, if you could put the Latin Forum into an emotion, a feeling that you want the people that attend to take away, what would that be?
Community, opportunity. Those are the two biggest things. Yeah. I mean, the industry as a whole is in a bit of a hard place right now. There's not, like, going back to even 2022, like so much work in Toronto. And now like there's like a fraction of the work and everybody's looking for work. And I was just in LA and everybody is just like, there's a feeling of like, we need work, we need work. And now I want to bring the community together just to kind of like hold on, and there will be kind of, you just have to kind of keep strong and persevere. And I think like you can only persevere with community. I think it's very hard to do it by yourself. I would know.
Amazing. So with there's two things going on. There's the micro community that you're building, right? Against the backdrop of everything that's going on in the world. Are there, well, there are, I guess, how are you navigating the unique challenges that we're facing, that the Latin community is facing overall? And how is that kind of being reflected in putting together this event?
What I'm finding is that the Latin community, because we haven't had like an official organized institution like this before, we're years behind in conversations of equity, in conversations of opportunity, in just like financing. There's some great cultural endeavors that have been around for a while, and even some that are pretty new, but they were able to kind of round up the startup money to do it. And Listo Calisto is truly starting from scratch. So we depend on the community to show out, to kind of bring people together. We want to do smaller programming that like pay what you can. Like we don't want to be charging people a lot of money to be able to attend our events, because that's not what it's about. We just did a wonderful one-day workshop with Anthony Farrell. He was very gracious with his time, and he came and did like a pitch workshop where he taught about the different levels of pitching, and everybody was able to walk away knowing their project a little bit more. And that's something small that we like to do, just to make sure that the community is just keeping in touch. And then stuff like the Latin Forum, we try to just maintain and keep it efficient and low cost. You try and go to some of these conferences, and it's like hundreds of dollars. And if you're going out of town to attend, you're thinking of flight, hotel, stuff like that. And so for the Latin Forum, we wanted it to like just be competitive. We want to be able to offer those same things that those conferences are offering, but not charge you an arm and a leg for it. That's really important to us. And those like the main challenges we're finding is just like kind of any organization it's just like starting up. It's just everybody doing multiple things. From an administrative standpoint, I wear every hat through the course of one day, whether it's marketing, whether it's fundraising, whether it's programming, all the things. So
Yeah, it's and there will always be challenges with any stage, any chapter in world history, and we're definitely facing one of the biggest challenges right now. But it's interesting. I've really gravitated to your mission, to your core mission, and the work I'm doing over here. There's an alignment there in terms of this evolution of celebrating, where we've come from. And it's interesting. I moved away from Canada for 7 years. It was a part of a work relocation and also a career break that happened during the peak of the pandemic. When I first started working in the creative space, there were hardly any Latinos. I remember, I'm sure if I could have like looked closely, there were more, but it felt like sometimes it felt like am I the only one? I know I'm being a bit dramatic there. There were a lot, but uh, my pleasant surprise from you putting this program together is that seeing how many amazing, talented people you've been able to curate into this program.
yeah, I mean, part of that also, because like you say, like, oh, where's everybody? And I think what happened with the older generations that are like incredibly successful. I've met some incredibly successful creatives, producers, directors in this industry. And the kind of feeling I get from them is like, well, I stopped trying to look for a community and I just went and did my own thing, which is like you respect that because it's like you got to do what you got to do. But a lot of people, a lot of Latinos in this industry, they just kind of go on and they just do their thing. And they put their head down and they work hard and they carve a career out for themselves because they are looking around and they're like, well, I can't find the other Latinos. And that is a hard road. That is a tough journey, and I respect them for that journey a lot. Uh, but now I want to make it easier for everybody, hopefully, by providing community, by providing a space where Latinos can come together and collaborate. It doesn't have to be like creatively collaboration. Like you don't have to be like, well, I want to write this Colombian film and my whole crew has to be. That's great if you want to do that, but other forms of collaboration is just like the story can be anything. Just write a horror film and then your whole like your crew can be Latino, and where it makes it easier to connect. It's like, oh, I'm looking for a set dresser. Oh, I know someone easy because I met them through a Listo Calisto program, or I met them at the Latin Forum, or I'm looking for a head of whatever department. So yeah.
Great. No, I love the work that you're doing. And one of the things one of the points that you make, I was going to say argument or cases that you make for supporting the Latino creatives, and do we really need an argument? We don't, but is the economic component, the economic impact, and the growing percentages and the growing numbers of people that represent the acquisition power in the economy.
Yeah, they're starting to. Last year, there was a McKinsey study that came out, and McKinsey is like this organization that does finance research reports, and they're very non-biased. That's their kind of thing. We're non-biased. And they put together this report on Latinos in the media industry and the entertainment industry. And it was American focused, so it's US numbers. But they explicitly were saying that Hollywood is leaving 10 to $18 billion on the table by not having more Latinos in front of the camera and in decision-making roles. And that is a crazy, crazy number. That just goes to show how much Latinos go out to support what they want. They're a huge box office draw. They buy a lot of tickets. Everybody is starting to realize Brazilian fandom is insane. Lady Gaga just did her like concert for how many? Like 2 million people or something like that. Yeah, and it's like these are the things that I think Canadians and Americans are neglecting when it comes to like we're talking about international sales a lot. The Canadian broadcasters want their shows to be co-financed by like international broadcasters. And this is how you do it. Tap into Latin America. They have a lot of money to spend. They show up and they're not just going to be able to finance, but they're going to be able to make sales too. So it's all those types of things. And Listo Calisto is kind of, we are focused on the Canadians, the Latin Canadians, the people that are here working, but we also want to change the perception of Latin content and working with Latinos internationally as well.
Yeah, no, because I love this approach because I heard a really great quote recently where, we always talk about leaving things better, whether it's our impact on the planet, our communities, which is crucial and absolutely is important. But sometimes by leaving yourself better first, you make yourself able to actually make an impact. So by starting with the Latin community in Canada, then and making that strong, then it will kind of have an effect on communities in other places as well.
Yeah, you can hope. The idea is that if there's more Latin stories being told in general, then it'll be better for people who are looking for work here. We have a lot of great Latin creatives, directors, and writers who are here. And sometimes I even wonder like how Latin culture is underutilized in kind of translating into Canadian culture. And what I mean by that is like, how come there isn't like a Canadian soap opera? And that's like a daytime soap opera. And if there was, you would hire like Latin writers because Latin soap operas are huge.
Telenovelas, yeah.
Telenovelas
Yeah.
are huge. So like if they don't want to, if Canadian broadcasters don't want to buy a telenovela and broadcast in Canada, sure. But why don't you do it in Canada and then hire Brazilian writers that are living here in Canada to write them in English? And it's just like, because they know it so well. That's just one very specific example of like utilizing creatives from other cultures and how they can add to your projects here.
Absolutely. And really that's a very specific example of opportunity. And what are the opportunities right now for in terms of there could be, even though there are a lot of challenges, it's also these moments show opportunity. For example, vertical production could be something. What are the opportunities for Latinos to navigate this transitional point in history?
I think it's being open to working across sectors. I think it's being open to kind of like, yes, you went to film school, you want to be a director. Yes, you went to film school, you want to be a DP, or you want to be a writer, or you want to be a performer, you want to do this. And I think it's important that you don't kind of say to yourself, oh, I'm only going to work in film and TV. I'm only going to work in TV. But there, across Canada, there's gaming, there is podcasting, there is other sectors where you can work and hustle and find that career niche for you. I know a lot. There's at the Latin Forum, we're doing a panel on working across sectors, and we have someone like Eduardo Weissman, who's a sound director at Ubisoft. He works on AAA games. AAA games is like the reference that they use for like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, and those that's called a AAA game. And he's a sound director on games like that. And he started his career in film and television. He did 10, 15 years in film and television, and he moved over to gaming. And so I think it's important that people kind of, when they're emerging or when they're just getting started, or even if you're established, and you're feeling like, oh, you're kind of stalling right now. Like you should have this open perspective of, oh, maybe I can try a new lane that's still a creative field.
I love this idea of working across sectors because like I've been thinking a lot about how we need to really like dance in different ecosystems. And you listed so many categories there. We have film, gaming, podcasting. In the past, when I was working in the media and entertainment industry selling TV shows, it was all we all had to be kind of isolated. But now our path to survival is by all bringing all those worlds together.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of, I think, I'm pretty sure the Latin Forum is the only Canadian conference bringing everyone together. Uh, Everyone, as in like gaming, podcasting, film, and TV. I can't think of another one that's doing it. We just wanted to kind of open that up and open that space up. And this is the first year we're trying it. So it is about 70% film and TV still, but we are very much kind of wanting to bring everybody in.
So, I mean, we've been talking about the motivation, the heart and soul behind everything, but let's do some shameless plugs here in terms of what people can expect from the Latin Forum. Every conference, every event really has different categories in terms of educating, entertaining, building community, creating opportunities. What can people expect from the Latin Forum?
We are going to do panels like how Latin Canadian creatives can reach a Latin American audience. We are doing working across sectors. We're doing creating in the new age. Creating in the new age kind of focuses on how the landscape is changing. There's different routes of distribution. There's different ways to kind of get your content out there. So it's discussing those types of things. And we have a great panel of someone like Andres Salazar, who works at Underknown. Underknown is a media company that distributes their content on YouTube. And YouTube is like dwarfing all the streamers right now. Like they make I think they made something like 30 something billion dollars in advertising revenue last year, and that dwarfs like everyone. Well, and I mean everyone, like Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, et cetera, et cetera. Even like Apple, Amazon, stuff like that. So like the new way of getting your stuff out there it's changing all the time. And with these vertical productions, that's a new format as well. But those are the kind of panels that we'll be discussing. It's industry focused stuff on how we can focus on the future, while also talking about the Colombia, or sorry, not I'm Colombian, but the Latin experience, and things like what I wanted to kind of keep in mind is that every year you go to a conference that has a community focus or a cultural focus, and sometimes you kind of hear the same conversations every year, and that's something we really wanted to avoid. We wanted to have fresh conversations, fresh voices, so we're bringing in a lot of people that are new this year, which we're really excited about. And we feel that like just showing the diverse creative community in itself is like having its own conversation. It's the subtext of it. And yeah, we're really excited about who's coming. We're also doing the roundtable portion again, which is going to feature a lot of industry organizations like Telefilm, like Canada Media Fund, like the Independent Production Fund. CBC will be there, Elevation Pictures, and a lot more companies as well. So we're excited about that roundtable portion. We got a lot of great feedback from the people who were involved in it, from the delegate side, but also from the companies that were there as well, if they felt it was really necessary. So those are the things that you can come to expect.
Incredible. Well, you and the team are doing fantastic work. And as you've been putting this together, this is the second edition now. What's the most rewarding part of this experience for you?
I think last year, just standing there when the day was happening and seeing people talk and the engagement and the community, that was the best part for me. And then sleeping in the next day when it was all over, that's also
Yeah, that's a
that's
big reward.
also very
Yeah.
rewarding. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. And just tying it all into what we were talking off the top of the show, your personal journey. Where are you on this Latin light? It started Latin light. Where are you now?
I mean, it's hard to articulate when you're on it. I mean, I have like personal goals like becoming fluent in Spanish, and I have career goals, and I have all those types of things. And I don't I it would be hard to pinpoint where, because you only know where once it's over. Um, and I'm far from over. So I think I just kind of just strive to keep growing and strive to like keep connecting with the Latin community, and strive to, it's also about learning about like my own family as well, and learning like I try to visit my grandmother often, and just kind of get her to tell me stories of her childhood in Colombia and stuff like that, and I think that's really important.
I love that. I love that. And it sounds like, well, I'm sure that the experiences with your grandfather and your grandmother that you've spoken about on the episode so far, I'm sure 100% that's influencing the form in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to say "Listo Calisto" and push me on the swing. And
By the way, please let's tell the audience what, for those that don't speak Spanish,
oh
what
yeah,
Listo Calisto means.
well, "Listo Calisto," it's like a phrase that just means like "ready, Freddy," and it's as simple as that. But when I was starting Listo Calisto, I knew the name. It would be the name immediately. I have it like even before I started Listo Calisto. I have it
Oh
tattooed over my
wow.
chest. Yeah, yeah. But that's how personal that
It's
phrase is
literally a
for
part
me.
of you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of what it's all about. It was just like a phrase that meant a lot to me, and I wanted to um, make a community and make a company around it. And but it also means ready, Freddy, and it's like I want people to kind of like feel ready for like the next opportunity and ready for like, what comes in front of you, and that's a lot of it.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So as we start to close off, I'd love to give you some space based on everything that you've shared with us. Anything on your mind that you'd love to leave the audience with?
um I mean, I don't I that's a tough question. um I want to be able to provide a community and a space for Latinos in the industry, and we're getting a good momentum going in Toronto, but I want to make it Canada wide, and it is something that we're trying to kind of pursue in the next couple of years of how to do something in Vancouver, how to do something in Montreal, how to do something in Calgary, Edmonton, et cetera, where there is other big Latin communities. So that's something that might take a while, because every time I see someone from somewhere else in Canada that's Latino, they're like, "When are you doing some Listo Calisto program in our city?" It might take a minute or two, a year or two, but it's something in our mind, and it's something that we want to do, and it's something that we want to do nationwide. So
It's great to have that vision. Well, awesome. Okay, so we've reached the end of the show with our rapid fire round. I ask every guest the same three questions. Okay. And it's personal growth fire, rapid fire. The first question: what is the biggest gift you've discovered about yourself on this journey?
um, that community does provide me fulfillment. And I think all of us are just on a human journey of fulfillment. What makes us have those moments of happiness, and learning that community provides me fulfillment as an introvert is really amazing. And I really love when I'm able to bring everybody together, and I'm able to see people connecting, and you never know where it leads. I love when people come up to me. Some people after the Latin Forum would come up to me like, "Oh, I got this new job because I met these people at the Latin Forum, and I ended up working with these people because of the Latin Forum, or I met them at the mixer and blah blah blah, and now we're doing this thing together." That is huge to me.
Yeah, that's the impact right there. Uh, Great. Next, what's the hardest truth you've discovered about yourself on this journey?
The work-life balance. Starting an organization, being an entrepreneur is 24/7. Um, and it's about kind of finding that balance for yourself, learning like, okay, I really need to take a break right now, or I'm not really providing anything for anybody. I'm not going to be great when I walk into the room. I'm maybe not be whatever I need to be, and the recharge is extremely important.
Great. And finally, what is your definition of authenticity?
I think authenticity can maybe start from two places. It can start from the heart and the gut. Um, I think sometimes I've I've kind of previously pursued work that comes from my gut and my heart. Um, your heart, I feel like your gut is like the Kickstarter. It kind of, the gut tells you like, this is a good idea, but your gut doesn't tell you what, like how, like a couple steps down the road. And then the heart will kind of tell you why it's a good idea, why you should be doing this. And then your head will tell you, okay, well, this is how we're going to actually do it. And I feel like the authenticity kind of, yeah, authenticity to me is something that speaks to you in your gut and in your heart, and those two things.
Wow, awesome. I've heard many definitions on the show, over 100 episodes now. That is one of the most unique ones. I love that. I
Oh,
love that. Yeah. Authenticity, something that comes from the heart and from the gut. That's a beautiful way to close, Julian. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing so openly.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's today's origin story. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. I'm Fede Vargas, and you can connect with me around the web at my most authentic life. See you next time.